Good morning, Danita.
Just letting y'all know we made captions available if you're interested. It's that ellipses over in the lower right of your Zoom taskbar that you can choose to view them if you like. And there's also a way to have the full transcript. Sometimes that helps folks. And I like to save it at the end.
All right, well, it is 11 a.m., so we will begin. So welcome everybody to Getting to Know the South Carolina State Library, Researching African American History. Excuse me. If you could please take a moment to share in the chat box your name, where you're joining us from. Are you an educator, a librarian, or the general public? And what you're hoping to learn in today's program. And while we're doing that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is McCabe Rentz. I am a public services librarian in the Library Collections and Services Department underneath Virginia's direction. I have been with the State Library since December 2021 and graduated from USC with my MLIS in May of 2020. I'm very excited about being at the State Library, but I must admit, when I first joined, I was not 100% confident about what we were as a special library or a government library and about all of our resources. So preparing for this series of getting to know the South Carolina State Library has been very helpful to me in getting to see our resources and learning about everything that we have to offer. Some of my favorite things about working at the State Library are helping people and getting some very interesting questions. Some of our more notable reference questions we are able to share with communications, and they'll get added to our more newsletter, which is a great time to mention. Please do sign up for our newsletter on our website, and you'll get to see some of these exciting questions sometimes. If we could go ahead and move to the next slide, and I could show you about one of the first notable reference questions that I had that really stood out to me. And this is Mr. Jonas T. Kennedy travels to Washington. A patron called and was taking over some genealogy and some personal history for a family member and was trying to find some evidence or proof or an image about Jonas T. Kennedy, who was a farmer in South Carolina, being invited to the White House in 1967 for a luncheon hosted by then President Lyndon B. Johnson. And he was the only African-American farmer from South Carolina to be invited. And so I searched our state docs, I searched our newspapers, our databases, all sorts of places, and really couldn't find anything. So I was kind of stumped. And of course, being a new librarian, I was like, no, that is not happening. We will have answers. So I did reach out to the Presidential Library, the Lyndon B. Johnson Presidential Library, and they were able to provide me with the resources that you see on this screen. On the far right is the President Johnson's daily diary. And you can see on that it says he's going to the mansion for luncheon for farm leaders, and talks a little bit about what he said to them, and that almost every agriculture area was covered in the meeting. The LBJ Library sent us that. They were also nice enough to include the image on the far left of the contact card for Mr. Kennedy. Anyone that came to the White House at that time was created a card that tells about them, why they were there, and what sort of organization meeting was going to occur. And then in the middle, you see some images. They actually sent 3 pages of contacts of negatives and contact sheets. And we were able to identify the gentleman with the black suit and a white, it's either a handkerchief or a program coming out of his pocket, is actually Mr. Kennedy shaking President Johnson's hand. So this was really great way that we reached out with another library. It was really cool that it was a presidential library, another special collections library, and that we were able to present all of this back to our patron. And they were just very happy to receive this information. And it was made me feel really great to be able to do that. And then moving on to the next slide, we also were approached by the Office of the Historian of the U.S. House of Representatives. Their office was updating Black Americans in Congress, which is a title that we have in our collection. And they wanted to use a portrait of Representative Robert Brown Elliott that was hanging in the State House. And the artist happened to be another South Carolinian, Larry Francis Levy. And they needed to get permission to use that portrait. So I was able to put them in contact with the House clerk, who the House owned the painting, so they were able to give that release to use it. And then I was also able to provide the Office of the Historian, the U.S. House of Representatives, the obituary of Larry Francis Levy, which was a great resource that we had with our news bank subscriptions, being able to access that obituary. So this was another instance where we didn't necessarily have all of the information that the patron needed, but we had enough that we could get started and find the answers that we needed, as well as supplement them with additional information. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about yourself. That's just a little bit about me. And I'm very excited to be here today doing my first presentation as getting to the South Carolina State Library. And thank you for allowing me to share what I've learned with y'all.
Thanks, McCabe. That was great. Yeah, we wanted to share, we're so fortunate to get such interesting questions. And I know if y'all are working in a library, y'all have the same thing going on in your county, that people come to us with really interesting questions, and it helps us learn something every single time we work on a question. So expand our horizons a little bit and get people and information connected. Well, I wanted to welcome you all today. Thank you for coming and spending some time with us. This is an ongoing webinar series that we're doing called Discover the South Carolina State Library. I think I recognize some names, and a couple of you have attended before, so thanks for doing that. Today, we wanted to give an overview of resources we have on researching African American history at the State Library, and it's just a real wealth. We had to cut some things out that we might share on another day, on another webinar. But I want to thank McCabe Rentz, my colleague in Library Collections and Services, the department we work in together. And we've got some information in a couple of slides of how to contact us. So if you ever have a question later, it could be today or it could be next year, just know that we're always here to, we want to be able to help and find the information you're looking for, or get you connected with another library that has it. And one reason we're doing this series is because we get the question every day, like, what does the State Library have? What are y'all exactly? How do we use the resources? You know, lots of questions like that. And so we just felt like, well, this is an opportunity for us to put that information out there and to be able to share that with you. And so we're going to continue doing webinar series like this. We might do some that are in person. And we have another one. It's not published on the events page just yet, but we've got another one set up for March 29th that will be on women's history, that McCabe and another colleague are going to be leading. And I think that one's going to be fantastic. So, so stay tuned for that. If you get our newsletter in your emails, you'll see the advertisement for it and be able to register if you have an interest. And email us to later on. I think it should be up in the next week or two. And let's see what else. You can also go to our events page and check it out. So.
And speaking of the upcoming next webinar, as well as this webinar, to get the full benefit of the information we're sharing, we do recommend applying for a South Carolina State Library card in order to access the newspapers, both historic and current, scholarly articles via online databases, and for checkout of physical and electronic materials. This is the website to get our library card is on the screen. You can also just go to our main webpage, and then under programs and services, you'll click that. Then it's under South Carolina residents. You'll find the link there to get a South Carolina library card. Fill out the form online. It'll be sent to myself and other colleagues. We will process it and mail you your physical card. You do not need to see a librarian if you get that message. If you do need your barcode and password to access any of our resources prior to receiving your physical card, please do give us a call or email, and we can provide that information for you. I do want to remind everyone that you must be a South Carolina resident and 18 years or older to get a library card. However, if you are under 18 or out of state, we would still love to help you with your research. Just shoot us an email or give us a call, and we'll do anything that we can. And also to let you know that the South Carolina State Library is part of a consortium for SC Lens that includes ourselves and county libraries throughout the state. So you'll hear us mention today that if we don't have a book necessarily at our library, that you can search throughout SC Lens and they can ship it to us. And the next slide, we also are available for research help. If you have any questions, please give us a call. You can dial directly to our reference phone number. You can email us. You can schedule a book a librarian for one-on-one help virtually. Those last about an hour. And then we also offer Ask a Librarian, which via a live online chat. You can access that from our website. If you scroll down to the bottom of the main page, you'll see it on the bottom right. All right, any questions about getting some additional research help or signing up for a library card at this time? Great. Sending it back to you, Virginia.
Thanks, McCabe. And we didn't mention this before, but if you want to unmute yourself when y'all enter, it's muting you. Just feel welcome to ask a question anytime. And depending on who's talking, we'll pay attention to, we'll try to answer your question, or we'll pay attention to the chat and try to answer you that way. And if it's might be an extended answer to give you, we might wait till the end to address that question. But please feel welcome to unmute yourself and ask anytime. So we wanted to share what we were going to go over, and we're going to show the types of physical resources we have in our print collections, online resources that you can access either with a card or without a card. A lot of the stuff that we have is freely accessible online. We're going to show you the ProQuest Historical Black Newspaper Database, the African American History Database, Newsbank that has historical South Carolina newspapers, ProQuest eBooks, a Black History Guide, Study SC, and our SC Lens library catalog. We're going to go over that. Okay, and we just wanted to have like a little screenshot of where to find this, because this is something we share all the time. If you go to our homepage for the State Library, you can, there's a blue ribbon it says collections. There's one of the tabs. And then all the information you see on this slide is on the collections page. And the majority of what we're showing you today, you can access through that page. So whether it's the catalog, smart search, A to Z list of databases, ebooks, or our digital collections and our state documents are all right there on that one page. Okay.
Okay, so excuse me, now we are going to begin our African American history research with a subject search. So from the collections page, on the right side of that page, you'll see the two boxes, SC Lens Catalog and Smart Search Plus. From both of these, you can type in a search term and it'll take you to your results. When you begin a search, you may want to take some time to brainstorm about what you're researching to get the best search terms, but be prepared to edit those as needed. You may want to start with a very broad term and then narrow as needed, or use an advanced search. That'll allow you to change perhaps the publication year, the format, add parameters to your search terms, and really tailor it to your specific research needs. Another great thing to point out is when you do a subject search and you get results, you can scroll down to the record, the bottom of the record, and you can see some suggestions for other ways to search because it'll give you related search terms. And then again, when you're searching SC Lens, you have the option of searching the entire consortium by choosing all SC Lens, and that'll search our library as well as the county libraries that we share our collection with. And then with Smart Search Plus, that's searching our databases and also with Discus and other state library resources we have. So it looks like maybe you're just searching one or two places, but you're really searching all of our catalogs. And with SC Lens, you do have the ability to limit your search by library. So if you specifically want something in the South Carolina State Library, you can search with that. Or if you specifically just want the title, you can search all of SC Lens and see where that available copy is, put it on hold and have it sent to you. All right. So once you're in the SC Lens catalog, once you type in your search word in that box on the last screen, this is what you'll see on the next screen. So you'll see we have African American as the term in our search box. We have selected a subject search as the type of search. I have not narrowed anything by format, but I could do physical books, ebooks, just different variables like that. And then I am also searching specifically in the South Carolina State Library. So I only want to see books that are here or resources that are here that we hold. Now, one thing to mention is if you are searching ebooks, you need to always select South Carolina State Library because our ebooks are proprietary to location. So whatever branch owns that ebook, those patrons can check it out. And then with each type of search, like a subject search or a keyword search, it allows you to see what else is out there. It allows you to broaden or narrow your search as needed. You can also do a title search or an author search. Again, you can limit by format and then by library. So putting in African American and searching the South Carolina State Library for a subject search, we get our first result. And that is a result from our general collection. And you can see that where it says shelving location, it says adult stacks right in here. So general collection and adult stacks equal the same thing. Basically, those are books that are part of our general collection, pertain to the South, but maybe not specifically all about South Carolina, but issues that deal with topics in the South, as well as our professional collection, such as professional library resources and books like that. Excuse me. So with our result, we have received I Dream a World, Portraits of Black Women Who Changed America. And it does show our available copies. We have one copy here at the South Carolina State Library, but there are 9 copies total available at SC Lens. So if you did want to place a hold and perhaps our copy was checked out, you could go ahead and do that. And the first available copy from SC Lens would be captured for you and then sent to your pickup location, which most likely would be the state library. And then also you can see where it has added women as a parameter, portraits and interviews to our basic search term of African American. So we could then, excuse me, say, hey, we really want to focus on African American women and their experiences in South Carolina or in the South, so that you could focus them. Moving on to our next result, we did get an ebook, and it is a book of poetry, and it's entitled Disquiet. And you can see then we received this result because we are searching within the South Carolina State Library. This message here, you must be a state library card holder to access this title. If this was another library, let's say you were searching in SC Lens and an ebook came up and it was a different library, you wouldn't be able to access it. You have to be the state library card holder to access our title. So you would click on that, and then it would take you to ProQuest. And then from here, you can also see, you can get the genre modification. So if you only want electronic books, let's say you're not coming to the state library and you want to do research, but you can only get electronic books at the moment. You might want to filter by format or also search genre wise. And then that brings us to our next item from the African American subject search. And that is a book called Vibration Cooking that is in our South Carolina collection. Our South Carolina collection is a curated collection focusing on South Carolina, both historical and current titles. We've recently added a new staff member that their primary role is making sure that they're filling in any holes that we may have in the South Carolina collection. We only allow titles to be checked out if we have more than one copy, because we do need to preserve these titles as well. So if we have a title with only one copy, this new team member is going to try to find an additional copy so that we can circulate that. And any non-circulating items we have, you can view in the library. You can come in, we can pull them for you, and you could take a look here, or you could also contact us before making the trip down here, and we could have items pulled for you that you can search that are non-circulating. And we may be able to make a copy or two of a couple pages or scan some items for you from a specific title. This title, Vibration Cooking, is a neat example because we do have a first edition copy, which is non-circulating. As you can see here, it says status non-circulating, but then there are additional editions. We have a 1992 and a 2011 edition that are available, and you can check those out. All right, another title from the South Carolina collection with the subject search term is the Freedman's Book. You can see that we do have both non-circulating and available copies, and that there are no holds at this time. So that's just kind of showing you how to do a basic subject search, the type of results you may receive, and then what you can do with those results. At this time, we're going to switch the search term and the type of search. We're going to move to a keyword search, which you will see on the next slide. And we're going to switch the term to slavery. And again, when you begin your research, perhaps brainstorm and have a list of search terms that you can modify or use as needed. So we did receive some results with the new keyword search of slavery, and it gives us some modifiers of South Carolina. So you could look specifically slavery in South Carolina, slavery in the Southeast, or other geographical locations. When receiving a ProQuest result from this new term, which is on the right side, it recommends some books you may also like. So it's giving us 9 additional titles. And you could take a look at those titles and say, hi, this author looks great. I'm going to search and see what else this author has written. You can search within ProQuest, and you could also take that back and search in SE Lens or the Smart Search to find other formats of writing by an author. And again, so have a variety of search terms and be prepared to alter them or add to them based on results and similar materials. Some of the terms that I came across were race relations, racism, race identity, Black race, and Black people. And then one of the results with the slavery keyword search on the next slide is an example of how topics change and evolve, and our collection is not stagnant because we are still learning about experiences African Americans have had and continue to have in South Carolina and the Southeast. So this book, Remembering Enslavement, Reassembling the Southern Plantation Museum, is very topical, and it provides us a great variety of search terms: historical museums, with a modifier of Southern states, or you could say a specific state. We do have slavery, Southern states, plantation life, and historic sites. So those are all some great search terms that you can check. You will see that this is in the adult stacks, which is our general collection, and is one that can be checked out. There's only one copy available generally though, so you may have a little bit of a wait. And then finally moving on to searching with a focus on juveniles. So you must be 18 years or older to get a state library card, but we do still have materials for those 18 years and younger. Also great for educators, students, or adults. Picture books can be great for everybody. The first title that we have on the left, it came from SC Lens, a basic keyword search, and it is shelved in our juvenile South Carolina section. So it is part of our South Carolina collection and the juvenile section of that. It provides a lot of great subject search terms for us here, and then also a genre of picture books. And Juneteenth, A Children's Story, that is also a great topical title, and things that we are still learning more about are added to the collection as we continue to grow. And then on the right, we have a title that came from the Adult Inclusive Services Center. These titles do circulate, so they are available for checkout. And this is Born on the Water. And again, you can see a large amount of subject terms and genres that are provided from getting this one result. All right, at this time, does anyone have any questions about subject or keyword searching within the SC Lens or the Smart Search Plus? All right, great. Well, I will send it over to Virginia. And if you have questions later or always want to follow up on anything, please email us, call us, or make a live one-on-one appointment with us.
Thanks, McCabe. And I think you probably already said this, popped in my head just a moment ago, is that when we're referring to SC Lens, we're part of a consortium of other libraries. So there are 20 libraries that lend and borrow books all around the state. And so you may already live in one of those counties that can borrow directly from us through SC Lens. And if you aren't, we have the ability, you would go through your local library and request an item through interlibrary loan with the librarian in your county library. So there's lots of ways to borrow our items. And sometimes you can just come drive over to Columbia and visit us and see. So far, McCabe has been showing you how you can dive into the catalog and find a variety of resources like print books and the various ebooks. And I wanted to show how you could just go straight to a specific resource and use that resource when you're looking for something. Has anybody used the ProQuest historical Black newspapers before? McCabe has. I have. I come back to this resource time and again. We'll get some difficult questions and like, I wonder where I should look. Somebody asked for all of the editorials that Mary McLeod Bethune had published in national newspapers, and lo and behold, they were, thanks Quintel, Quintel has, they were all in here, and it was something like 30 or 40 years worth of her editorials were all in this one collection, which is really cool. One nice thing about the ProQuest historical Black newspapers, it is national newspapers from all across the United States, and they're published by and for African Americans. So the content is often different than the mainstream newspapers that you can also access. And if you're looking for just a plethora of different people, it could be, we have amazing South Carolina coverage. I'm gonna show you some examples. You could just be generally looking for something about African American history, maybe an event, and you're trying to find contemporary articles from 1955. Well, these papers are going to be a really great resource for something like that. So if you've ever heard of the Pittsburgh Courier, the Atlanta Daily World, the New York Amsterdam News, there are 11 titles here that you can search across or browse in. And it's a really great resource. So we've covered how demos of how to search this in some of our past webinars. One was historical, researching historical newspapers. We'll probably do some more in the future, but if you wanted to go back and watch one of those to specifically know how to use it, you're welcome to. So to get into that, I call it ProQuest. When we've got it in our A to Z list, it's newspapers, historical Black newspaper collection. You can find that A to Z list on the collections page, and you can, it's an alphabet across the top. You can click on N, and that will jump you down to Newsbank and the historical Black newspaper collection. And when you want to enter into one of these databases, you can click on the hyperlink, and at that point, it is going to ask for your state library card number. And there's a couple of exceptions where it may ask you for a discus, and just let us know, because we can't publish that. You have to let us know, and we give you that information. But once you get a state library card, you will have your card number, and it's just asking for a 13 or 14 digit number that will come up once you click on this. Okay. There's a couple of examples of South Carolina folks and historical events that you could find, and just really great articles about Harvey Gantt when he started college at Clemson and was the first African American there at Clemson. Eliza and Harry Briggs, who were part of the petitioners that became Brown v. Board of Education, and their local case, as y'all all know, is Briggs v. Elliott. It was the first case, and that landmark case. Freedom fighters that were actually in South Carolina. We often only see Mississippi as having the freedom fighters went there, but they passed through South Carolina, so there's some really neat articles about that. I learned about Reverend James Ivory was a local civil rights activist, and there were some great articles in the papers about his work up in Rock Hill. So it's just, these are awesome. Latter half of the 20th century, as there's progress made, as civil rights continue, some of the more famous people that you hear about, Reverend Joseph Delane and James Clyburn and Jessica Simpkins, there's a lot of really neat ongoing work that they were doing, and that's being covered in the newspapers. And you also have obituaries of really well-known people like Dr. Benjamin Mays, who was from the Greenwood area and lived his adult life over in Atlanta, being the president of Morehouse. But you also may have, and I think Matilda Evans is a local famous person. I don't know if anybody knows about her outside of South Carolina, But when she passed away, there was an obituary for her. And I can't see it because of the little screen, but you also might have somebody that was a former slave, and she just lived a really long time and was from Dalzell, South Carolina. So it kind of runs the gamut between ordinary people and well-known South Carolinians that might come up. Could be somebody outside South Carolina as well, of course. And then just kind of everyday life. You might have reunions that are covered in northern newspapers. Could be wedding announcements, beauty queen contests, all sorts of things that will show up in the papers. So sometimes this is a great genealogy source as well. And we wanted to also share Newsbank because you could get a different perspective. You might get some bias depending on whether it's historical information that you're trying to find. But Newsbank has, I'll show you the resources we have in there. It has over 120 South Carolina newspapers, and it's just a real varied collection. If you just, this is the home page and you scroll down, you could search across all South Carolina papers. You could search across all US papers in here as well, and it would be hundreds and hundreds of papers, which would be just fine. But you could also say, well, I'd like to search in the state, which is the Columbia paper that started around 1890, 91. And we have all the way up to today's paper. We've also got the Charleston Post and Courier, which changed names over time, but it dates back to around 1800. And we have it all the way up to today's paper. So there's some incredible content that goes really far back. So depending on the time period you might be searching, you could do a date between 1900 and 1950, or something like that. 1850. Ours don't go back to 1850 necessarily, but these two major papers start in 1890, so you could do 1890 to 1920, just depending on what you're looking for. But you can narrow, and you don't have to find just current content in there. Let's see. And I just wanted to use the Orangeburg Massacre as an example. Happened in February 1968. And these are articles I found in the Newsbank newspaper articles. So it may be some Charleston and some Columbia newspapers. And so the language may be a little bit different. There could be a very strong bias in newspapers from the 1960s at that point. And if you're trying to compare and contrast, I would look in both databases and see what you're finding. I know when I was searching for a past question, the kind of the tenor and how things were covered in the historical Black newspapers. We're talking about children getting shot and killed, and then there's a different kind of coverage of it and in these mainstream papers. So both of them are great historical records, and I think worth looking at. If you were looking up obituaries, I don't have a sharp year, but African-American obituaries start showing up around the 1980s in the state and Charleston News and Courier, unless there's an exception that a more famous person. But for us everyday people, that's when they start showing some of the ordinary South Carolinians who are getting covered for obituaries. Okay. So some of you may have already used this resource, but we have a state documents depository, and this is unique to our library in South Carolina. One of our mandates is to collect as many published state agency records as we can. And we have some really old materials that go back to the early 19th century, and we collect things monthly now. We're trying to catch as much as we can. We have what we think is over 100,000 print items in our state documents collection upstairs. We're also trying to make them more accessible for all of you. So if you live in another county, too far away to come visit us in person, we're trying to increase the amount of material we have in our online state documents depository, and we're almost at 50,000 items in there. So part of it we're digitizing in-house, and part of it we are harvesting current publications that are coming through. So it's just growing by leaps and bounds. And other libraries may have a little bit here and a little bit there, but we're going to have the there's one instance where I can say we probably have the largest collection in the whole state for things. So this slide just gives you some examples of the types of things you might have. Every single one of these are digitized and available right now that you could access, download to your home computer. So some are state documents, most of them are state documents, some are federal documents. So Alonzo Renzier, who I'm sure a lot of you know who he is, he's one of the earliest African-American US congressmen, and they published a speech by him on the US House floor in 1874. And so we have an original copy of that. Great primary resource. We have things that the State Department of Archives and History has produced about African-American history. The State Historic Preservation Office. These are great. They keep updating African-American historic places that a lot of people use. And a teacher's guide. So there's several different years that they've put new additions out on this resource. Some about archaeology. So this was an archaeology project in Folly Beach from the late 80s, early 90s, where they found, remember the movie Glory, where the African-American soldiers from, I think mostly Massachusetts, were fighting, and a lot of them were buried right near the beach. And they were doing a development project on Folly Beach, and did a salvage project. And so this is just a really cool publication that the Department of Archives and History put out about like a layman's explanation of that archaeology project. And then we have other archaeology reports that might be about significant historical African-American sites. And Mitchellville was a freedman's town post-Civil War. And Chikora Foundation is a local archaeology group that did the research, and you can read all about that. So that's kind of a fun example. The last year or two, I think it's been a couple of years, we've added the African-American History Database. You can find it in our A to Z list, but it's a discus resource, and that's how it's funded. So you can find it in either collection. It's just a fantastic resource. It's just a wealth of information. I think this is a great one, no matter what age you are. Some of it's geared towards kids, but it just has awesome primary resources. So you might see historic newspapers, famous speeches, videos, historical video content of something that might have happened, or a famous person gave a speech, the maps that kind of tell you what's happening when and where, a timeline of a particular event or topic, just an incredible amount of information. And so you can browse, you could do a search, like a simple search or an advanced search, and be searching for something specific, or you can come in and say, what do they have for this time period under era, colonization and slave trade beginning up to 1819. So they're going to have some really good stuff that way. So give it a chance if you're looking for a resource to try to collect some information. And this is one that I hope some of your librarians, when you're helping a patron or an adult or a child patron, that this is a great resource to let them know that it's free, that they can access it anytime. And the state library puts together this resource called Study SC, and it's South Carolina specific, obviously. We just revamped it, so if it's been a few years since you've looked at it, give it a look again. It's got a lot of biographical information that you can look at. Some of it is organized by grade level, elementary, middle, and high school. But in each one of those, there are 25 subject categories, and I just did a little screenshot of some of them. Slavery and the Civil War, Reconstruction, Gullah, civil rights are specifically African American, but I think there's something that you can find if you're researching African American artists, civil rights leaders, politicians, that sort of thing, in every single of the 25 categories. There's something really good in each one of them. I kind of like to look at things by maps and geography. So you could come up and search by your county. And in Fairfield County, I used my county, it highlighted several African Americans that are from there, like Kelly Miller, the mathematician, Nick Ashford, the musician, Nick Aaron Ford, Mamie Peanut Johnson, and Isaac Woodard. So they were all from there, and then it links you to biographical information about each of those individuals. So a really great resource that we've recently updated that I hope you'll use one day. It's free. Okay, we're winding it up. There's just one or two more things to share. So McCabe showed you how you can come across the ebooks and access them in the catalog, but you can also go to our collections page, scroll all the way down, and jump right into just ebooks if you like. And so ProQuest eBooks is a great resource for scholarly nonfiction ebooks that you can download for. There's kind of like a loan period, and it will change from book to book. But say you have 3 weeks and you can download it to your device and read it, and then it just goes away after it's due back. But you could also download a chapter, print off a chapter, that sort of thing. You have the ability to do simple and advanced searches, or you can just browse specific disciplines and kind of browse through. Just because of what we want to collect in these ebooks, we have a tremendous amount of South Carolina African American history in here. So we may have a print resource and an ebook of some of these books that we can get as ebooks, and that just gives you the ability to access it from your home or office, and if you like to use them. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility there. And if you don't have to be unsure, but we wanted to end with our Black History resource. It's a subject guide, and we've curated a gazillion resources on African American history that are at the state library. You can jump in and search by some of the subject headings we've put together for you. So that'll just jump right in and give you some search results in the catalog. We've highlighted several really good titles that we have in our collections. And then we've just done things by topic. So it could be, we've done genealogy webinars, and we have African American genealogy resources. We have things that are book titles and resources specific to slavery and emancipation after the Civil War, and so forth. So there's a lot of good stuff here that we just want you to know that that's free. You don't have to have a state library card to access this, but you're welcome to use that anytime. So it's kind of like the Study SC that you can use. And we add new stuff to this all the time. So it's a changing resource that we have. Okay.
All right. So thank you very much, Virginia, for all of that information. It's very helpful. And when Virginia and I were planning this, we kept going, oh, I want to highlight this. I want to highlight that. And there's not enough time to highlight everything. We've recently added some oral histories to our digital collections. We've in the past year did a display on state university yearbooks that featured several HBCUs. Those are state documents. Those were so very popular. And that's also an area where y'all can help us. Maybe you have an old yearbook from a state university or any type of state document. information about authors that are writing about South Carolina, we would love to hear from y'all about that, or see what you have possibly to add to our collection. As far as yearbooks or that sort of material, because like we need to have that at least one copy for preservation, and then additional copies allow circulation. So just to go over everything, you can start your search, brainstorming with some search terms, start narrow and then go wide. Or if you've started very broad, then you can go narrow. Please sign up for a library card so that you can take full benefit of all of our resources. And please do reach out to us. We love to hear from you. We love to see you, and we love to help you. There are numerous ways that you can get in touch with us: phone, email, live online chat, or one-on-one appointment. And at this time, does anyone have any questions about what we've presented today, your personal research, or how any of these resources could apply to your needs?
Thanks, Quintel.
Yes, thank you.
Trying to get out so that I could take you back to our homepage. See if that would help.
And I do have one more notable question, reference question that actually was helping the new librarian at Denmark Technical College. They were recently trying to get, I believe it was recertified with a new program called sam.gov. And in order to do that, they needed their original charter. Well, I couldn't find the charter. And I'm like, where is this charter? Does it even exist? So using our state documents, I was able to go back and look at the report for it was the state education, and we were able to find that the schools were founded under an act for area trade schools. And then later on, it was changed to Denmark Technical College. So by referencing several of our state documents, we were able to piece together that there was not one charter for this school, and we were able to get enough documents to put together for Denmark Technical College that they are able to get what they needed for certification. And that was a really cool experience, helping our own state and learning about the state and how education arose for African Americans, how it was handled, and how it evolved.
We're not in a hurry, so anybody has a question, we're glad to show you something or do a search for you. Glad to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned Study SC too, because sometimes we get people coming into the library that say, I'm brand new to South Carolina. Tell me something about South Carolina culture. And I'm like, well, there's a lot. Any particular place you want to start, and I can pull them up, Study SC, and they can search for people. We also have on there festivals that are coming up. Like yearly festivals that are known throughout the state. We share the book awards every year. The South Carolina Association of School Librarians puts together some nominees. So that's a great resource if you have smaller people at home, or for yourself if you're a YA or picture book reader. And that is a really great resource just to explore the state, especially the South Carolina glossary. Learn things about our state bird, our state seal, all sorts of things.
Thanks. Ms. Wilson, did you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to thank you for the information. I've been using the state library for a while because I went to school at a later age. I graduated from college in 2016. But now I was researching railroads, and I came in, you found me 2 books about free people of color and the South Carolina Railroad, because I'm from a small area called Kingville in Gadsden, and we were doing a historical research, and I'm trying to find more information. So I'm going to access these newspapers and some more collections. It got bigger and bigger. Once I started, I just wanted our area, and then I started researching about the railroad
Oh,
because my
wow.
grandfather was he worked for the railroad, and I wanted to know more about the people of Kingville back in the day. And so I'm doing a lot of research on that, and I know your site will be very helpful in me expanding, my resources and learning more. So thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome
you.
for coming and visiting us and using them.
Yeah,
That sounds like a really interesting one. Will you follow up with us and let us know what you find?
I sure will. I'm
Great.
finding okay.
Now, did you say Gaston or Gadsden?
Gadsden, that's Gadsden, and
Okay,
the Kingville Railroad Station and the little town was a part of Gadsden, the outreach. But it has a lot of history, even though it's nothing down there now, but the wood and the clearing where everything was. I wanted to help bring it all back to life because of my parents and my grandparents and everybody told me so much about it. And I want everybody else to know.
great.
Yeah.
Sometimes the legislative, the acts and resolutions will have charters for towns. And
Okay.
there may be something in our legislative materials that would have something about Kingsville.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'll check that out.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That's an awesome example.
Very helpful.
Yeah. Anything else we could share with anybody? Great. Did y'all like the 11 o'clock hour? We had been trying to do 12 and McCabe said, let's try 11 just in case somebody doesn't want to work through lunch. So,
I don't know about everybody else. I retired in July from the state, so
Oh,
it
congrats.
I'm
doesn't
home.
matter.
So I don't want to be the one to answer because I have more time.
That's nice.
Great. Yeah, we thought it wouldn't be too early, so you weren't like rushing to open or whatever is the case if you're in a library, but then also you weren't itching to get out the door and go eat lunch or changeovers on desks and that sort of stuff. That's great. Well, please do sign up for a library card if you don't already have it, and ask us some questions. We love questions.
We live off of questions
Yes.
and we learn something every single time,
Mm-hmm.
which is really fun.
Certainly do. And it's been great partnering with people. There was I think it was the office of the adjutant general. No, it was anyway, it was one department, and we had a patron looking for a document that used to be on their website. Well, they no longer even had it on their website. And we ended up having to reach out to the Department of Archives and History that had the papers from, I believe it was the then governor of the time. Or yes. And then, so they were able to locate the document that had been taken off of the agency website, and we were able to put it back up based on this one patron's question. And the agency that had the original document didn't know it was needed, and the agency that didn't have it on its website anymore didn't know it was down, and it was really great. We also had another instance where we got to work with the State Museum when we had a patron contact us about trying to identify the artist that painted a portrait of her mother-in-law. And that was really neat too, reaching out to the State Museum. They helped us identify the signature. Turns out the artist had been a teacher at the Will Lou Gray School and also studied at University of South Carolina. So we were able to pull all of our resources together and kind of present to the patron the story of the artist, how she came to be in South Carolina. We even found her gravestone, and it was just a really neat experience, and we'd love to have more of those and share them with you.
Great. Have a good day, Quintel. Thanks for coming.
Yes, thanks everyone for coming.
Bye, Corbin. All right, well, I guess we could wrap it up. If y'all don't have questions, just follow up with us anytime. You've got our emails and our reference information. So all of those are great ways to reach out. And it doesn't have to be this week. It could be next year. It doesn't matter. So
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Thank
Have a
you
great
all
day.
so much.
Okay, McCabe, I'm going to save the transcript and a couple of things.
Okay.
Save chat. And I hope that everybody got a copy of the slides that we added. Uploaded them a couple times. And I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay.